This is the TRT Community Podcast, where we discuss all things testosterone.
I'm Brandon, founder of the TRT Community and host of All Things Testosterone. The TRT Community is a Facebook group of patients helping patients navigate the struggles associated with testosterone replacement therapy. We have educational resources at testosteronepodcast.com.
Howdy. Nice to meet you.
You too. So I was just telling, this is my buddy Mikey here. I was just telling him that, you know, we're chatting with you, and I just wanted, you were telling me about your interesting story the other day, so I wanted to put it on the podcast. Every now and then I like to hear interesting stories. So you are in the Facebook group, and I guess take it away. You started out at what age with your symptoms, low energy and poor sleep?
Wife and I always joke around. It seemed like after 25, it was just downhill after that. And it was enough where I was complaining about it with my doctor. So probably late 20s, he started running labs, running panels. And I think he checked testosterone back then, but we never discussed it. I found something, it was in the 300s. But he did stuff like thyroid, you know, checking all that, and it was fine. So he just left it at that. He just kept saying, you know, try cutting caffeine out. I work in construction. So I was one of those stereotypical guys that has the green Stanley thermos. I take a pot of coffee every day, you know, sucking coffee down. And he said, you got to knock that off. You know, it's too much caffeine. So I did. No change. So I started cutting out carbs, lower sugar, no change. And it was really, really frustrating. And this was just years. So years of all of this, eventually he says, well, what about some sleep medicine? So I was afraid of him like suggesting like Ambien or something like that. You know, I always hear horror stories of people waking up in the middle of the night, sleepwalking, and having no clue that they're baking a turkey in the kitchen. You know, like I didn't want to do that. But he was pretty conservative. He ended up putting me on trazodone. I think it was 50 milligrams, which I found out later is a low dose antidepressant. I didn't know that. But after taking it for a while, I can see why people would complain about depression medicine. I mean, I'm on a really low dose and I'm doing it for sleep. I can't imagine taking that trying to function.
Did you do it at bedtime, or do you still have to take it every day?
He told me to take it as needed. So my problem, I could always fall asleep. I mean, I call my sleep problems insomnia. I don't know if it's clinical insomnia. I could always fall asleep. I could never stay asleep.
Yeah.
So I'd go to bed, 9 o'clock. I'd wake up at midnight, and I'm up from midnight to 5, just wide awake. And then maybe 5 o'clock, I'll fall back to sleep. My alarm goes off at 6 a.m. It was like that 5-6 nights a week. I'd get maybe 3 hours. And that's, I mean, you guys know if you don't sleep, it's maddening.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
with the trazodone, I could take it if I woke up midnight, you know, and just didn't feel good and I'm not going back to sleep. I could take it. And it wasn't like Benadryl where it would hang on and just make you feel like you're dragging in the mornings. It seemed like you metabolized it pretty good. So I could still get up in the mornings, go to work. I mean, it was no problem. So that was probably, I want to say maybe 2016, 2017, he gave me that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was kind of amazing. I went from maybe sleeping 3 hours a night to now most nights I'm getting probably 6 or 7 at least. So it was kind of a game changer. But then that's when I told you I started having prostate problems.
Yeah.
Which was kind of shocking. I mean, bladder as full as can be. And Mike, he knows you're in construction, right? So you got outhouses.
Yeah.
So you go out to the outhouse and it's like, my bladder is full. It is painful. Nothing's happening.
Yeah.
You know, and you're standing there like, what in the world is wrong? I have to pee. Why can't I pee?
Yeah.
So I would eventually it just took too long. I've never experienced this before.
How long? Like, explain if you don't mind. Go a little deeper. Are we talking, you know, you'd get to pee once a day or?
Oh,
You don't
no. I
in
mean,
there for a
like your
few.
bladder's full, it's a ton of pain. You know, you go to the restroom, you go to the urinal, you go to the outhouse, whatever it is, and instead of, few seconds, 20 seconds, I'm in and out. I'm like a minute and a half waiting for something to start.
Yeah. Was it
Like it was,
painful or just irritating?
oh yeah. Oh yeah. It was painful. It was frustrating. Um, Wife suggested for a while, she said she would say, like, it sounds like you got a UTI. And I'd
Yeah.
go get tested for that. No UTI. So the doctor and my wife would say, take those. What's those? I always forget what they're called. Those little pills. Wife usually takes it for UTI, turns your pee orange.
Diuretic or something. I don't know what they're, I don't know.
Yeah, I forget what it's
Z
called.
or something.
With the Z?
You can get it over the counter.
Yeah.
I was taking those things and it would give me some kind of relief, but I mean, something is clearly wrong, right? I'm in my mid 30s, late 30s at this point. I should not have this problem. So I complained to my doctor. He had done urine tests and that kind of thing. Nothing ever came up. So he says, you got to go to urologist. So I go to urologist. Which, have you guys gone to have you gone down that road? Have you gone to
No.
urologist?
No.
Prostate exams?
Nope.
Dude.
I have had a
So
doctor's finger in my butt, but he wasn't a urologist.
okay. Well, this was my first experience with that. Um, I don't get to see the urologist. I get to see his NP, his nurse practitioner. Very awkward woman. Like, this is already strange enough. Now I got to go through this with female. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Anyway, she says prostate is slightly enlarged. It's not that big of a deal. We've got meds for that. So I started, I think it was tamsulosin, and it's supposed to reduce the swelling and at least take care of those problems. You have to take it for a month before it starts working. And I took it for a couple of months. Nothing. Nothing happened. So I finally discontinued it because I don't want to take medicine if it's not helping.
Yeah.
So eventually I back to my doctor again, complaining about the same things. I still can't sleep. Well, I'm sleeping. I'm on trazodone. My energy's low, and now I got these prostate problems. So he puts me back on the medicine and says, try it again. Let's see what happens. That didn't work. He, about 6 months later, switched medicines to finasteride.
Yeah.
It's same kind of prostate medicine, lower doses. They use it for prostate. Higher doses, they use it for hair loss, but
yeah.
Lower doses, they use it for prostate. I did that for a couple of months, no change. So he said, you've been on the two medicines that we would recommend. At this point, you got to go back to the urologist. So I go back to the urologist. I get to see the man finally instead of his NP. The guy, have you ever had an experience with a doctor with no bedside manner?
Yeah. I can imagine. What did he say?
It was rough. I explained symptoms. This is why I'm here. This is the medicine I've been on. What do I do now? And he says, well, you don't have an enlarged prostate. I'm like, well, how do you know I don't have an enlarged prostate? Like, we just been talking for 2 minutes and he's getting like all the stuff out of the cabinet. I'm like, oh God, he's doing a prostate exam too. So he's getting his gloves out. He's getting the lube out and all this stuff. And I'm just stressing out like crazy. And he says, well, if you had an enlarged prostate, the medicine would have helped. Medicine didn't help. Therefore, no enlarged prostate. Your logic is irrefutable, but okay. So he does the exam, says everything's fine. I can't see anything wrong. You have one option at this point. And that's when he said the cystoscopy.
Yeah.
The only way we can see is if we run a camera up into your bladder and have a look around. This is probably 2020 now, so we're height of COVID. Do you guys know what a cystoscopy is?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you know? I mean, it's a camera into your bladder.
Yeah.
Up the end of your pee hole.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's what I call the penis periscope. I didn't know what it was. He didn't really explain it.
Yeah.
So I did what I think most people our age would do is you jump on the internet and you start doing searches. So here's my little bit of advice. Do not do what I did. Do not go to YouTube when you're coming up for this procedure and Google, or not Google, but look on YouTube for cystoscopy experiences. I don't have any clue why a guy would do this, but there are dozens and dozens of videos of guys that like bring their phone and video themselves during the thing while they're wide awake.
Wow.
It's horrifying. It's absolutely horrifying. I mean, I know it has to be a small camera, but I mean, my God, it was horrifying.
So you did it.
Oh yeah, I did it. That was my only option.
Yeah.
So I did. Wife and I go down to the hospital. Fortunately, we didn't have to do a clinic or anything. It's down at the main hospital here in town. Got all gowned up, waiting there for hours, got the IV in, and I find out, fortunately, in my case, they're knocking me out. They're doing anesthesia. So I don't have to be awake for it, which is kind of a huge relief.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want a memory of that at all, right? I don't want to remember that. So the guy's resident comes to get me, most polite man in the world. And he says, right when he's taking me down, I don't want you to get your hopes up for this too much. Did they tell you about the test? And I'm like, tell me what? He says, there's only an 11% chance we're going to find anything.
What?
Like, what kind of, like, I'm doing the math in my head. There's an 89% chance it's not going to find anything. Like, why are we even here?
Mm-hmm.
You can interpret that a lot of different ways. Maybe only 11% of the time, somebody actually has whatever. But they take you down to the OR. They stick you in a room. You got to get in stirrups, like you're in a woman in a gyno visit. Knocked me out, but I mean, they lube up your pee hole and they thread a tiny camera into your penis through your urethra. They go past where your prostate is because they want to see, is your prostate pinching your urethra? Maybe that's your problem. And they go all the way up into your bladder and they have a look around, which doesn't sound, it's not that big of a deal, but I did find out, I mean, it's supposed to be a tiny camera. I did find out afterwards that they had to go back to the storage room and look for a bigger camera.
Yeah.
I think they called it the Clydesdale, but
oh boy,
I don't know. No, I'm kidding.
So you're knocked out for that, obviously. Yeah. But was there pain or uncomfortability after the fact? Were you a little sore? Yeah.
Yes. So
in your penis or up in your bladder or both?
I would say from bladder all the way through. Yeah. And that's the one thing that nobody ever told me. They want you to drink a ton of water to help flush out your system because that causes a little bit of trauma. So the first few times you pee, you got a little bit of blood. I mean, it's a little pink.
Yeah.
And they want you to just hydrate like crazy because the more you pee, the more you're going to flush everything out and prevent infection and make everything heal better. Mm-hmm. They did not tell me that it feels like you're peeing razor blades.
Oh.
So for 2 or 3 days, like every single time I'm dreading it because it's the only way I could describe it. It feels like you're peeing razor blades. It was horrible. For an 11% chance to see maybe we got something going on here. Yeah. So that was just super frustrating. So I think I did what anybody else would do. Now you start going back to Google. Why do I have these symptoms? Because his only answer was, I mean, the guy was rude as can be. Rude with my wife on the phone. There's nothing wrong with him. He's fine. Call us in 2 or 3 months if you've got a problem. He's fine. Go home. Which I thought was really ironic. I never expected this. I know the guy's a urologist, right? I just thought it was ironic. I never expected him to be a dick. It was not. It was not. Yeah, pardon
Hey,
me.
did you spend time and come up with all these jokes? You're a pretty funny dude. Did
I've
you
told this
prepare?
story to all my friends. They think it's
Okay,
ridiculous.
okay.
It was nuts. It was
He was
nuts.
pretending like he was nervous to do this, but come to find out, he's ready.
No, it was nuts. It was so, I'm back to the drawing board. I don't want to go back to see him. I'm done. So I did a ton of research, and eventually I find out trazodone causes bladder and urinary problems in younger people. I think it's something like 1/10 of 1%.
Did any of the well, I guess if it's that low, maybe even if the doctors knew you were taking it, they wouldn't have put it together.
Yeah, I think it's that obscure. They just never, that would have not been on the radar.
Yeah.
So I saw that and I quit taking that stuff immediately. And within probably a month, 2 months, all my issues straightened out and I was fine. But well, I mean, that was great news, but now I'm back to I can't sleep.
Mhm.
So I'm doing research after research, and everything keeps coming back as testosterone, low testosterone being an issue, which I've never heard of before. Nobody's ever explained this to me. I've never had a conversation with a doctor about all this stuff. It was very, very random to me.
Yeah.
And I just kind of put it on the back burner, and I don't care. Well, 2021 comes around, and I think, a lot of us have been under lockdown for all that time. Things are starting to opening up. I've gained a little bit of weight. My wife always joked around. She saw something. I don't know if it was on Twitter or what, but like the pandemic, you'll come out of the pandemic either a hunk, a chunk, or a drunk. I'm kind of working on the chunk part. So I thought, 2021's rolling around. Let me see if I can hunker down and just really get serious, change my diet, cut some carbs out. Everything I read said, if you do more vitamin D, D3 can have a hormonal effect. It can increase your testosterone. So I took vitamin D. I cut most sugar except natural, fruits and vegetables. I cut most sugar out of my diet. I went to a higher protein diet because more protein is supposed to increase your testosterone. I started looking into supplements. I came across, I think it's Tribulus. It's a Chinese herbal blend. It's supposed to help testosterone. I started taking that. Vitamin C. I mean, anything that I could find that seemed reasonable, that was over the counter, low risk. I'm doing all of it.
Yeah.
And it occurs to me, I'm exercising. Okay, I'm mentioned that too. I started working out about 5 days a week. And it occurs to me, I'm doing all these changes. I don't know what my testosterone level is. So I messaged my doctor. He says, go to the lab. And in April of 2021, I get labs that come back at 392. And I'm like, it's not terrible.
Yeah.
But it's not great. At least I know where I'm at. So for me, that was kind of motivating.
Mm-hmm.
This is where I'm at. Now I can really hunker down. I can get serious. And I spent the better part of the year, just really trying to dial in diet, lose weight. I was feeling a little bit better. Energy was still in the tank. I mean, like to try to work out, like you're forcing yourself to do it. I just did not want to do it. Not interested. Usually when I go to work, I work in commercial construction. So I get home, and if I had to mow or do chores or anything around the house, I'd have to sit on the couch and sleep for 15, 20 minutes. I mean, there's no way after 8 or 10 hours of work that I'm going to go out and mow. And that's how life has been like since my late 20s.
Yeah.
So I spent the best part of 2021 dialing in my diet, dialing in the supplements. I'm doing all this stuff. I was really proud of where I was at come November. So I lost a couple inches around my waist. Like, I'm not a big guy to begin with. You know, I'm 5'8". Back then I was 170 pounds. You know, I'm not a big guy. I'm a little grown man to begin with. But I made all these diet changes, lost a couple inches around my waist. I started gaining weight. So I'm like, I know I'm putting on some muscle. I go back to the doctor, they run labs, and I'm really excited to see where I'm at because I know I've made some progress. And I went from 392 down to 363.
Ugh.
Which, I mean, it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. But you were looking at 700.
Yeah, I was looking for like 500 plus at least, something.
Yeah.
And I asked my doctor, like, I think I've done everything I can think of. I mean, what am I missing to try to bring that up? And he looked at me and said, I mean, I don't think you can. I think you've exhausted your options. So I asked about testosterone replacement. And I was really, really nervous. I mean, my doctor's younger. He's probably a couple years older than me. So he's a younger guy. And I've been with him for probably 18 years. I don't know if he's the guy to prescribe this or what. But he said, you know what? Let's do it. Let's go for it. Which I was crazy excited. And he started me on the old 200 milligrams test sip every 2 weeks.
Yeah. Did he have experience with TRT patients, or was he learning with you?
I don't know. And I've asked him a little bit, and he's not real forthcoming in spelling out like how many patients he's got or how many he monitors. I think at least he's got enough to be comfortable with making the recommendation and you know, not making a referral.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I started that. They did the 21 gauge 1.5 inch needle, which was a nightmare. I remember, you know, filling it. The whole thing was a piece of cake, and I'm sitting down, and I decided to do thighs because I kept seeing that was easy.
Yeah.
And I think it took me 15 minutes to do the first one. I mean, it made me sick.
You were able to do it yourself with a 21 gauge?
I never got that whole thing buried. I couldn't get that whole 1.5 inches in my leg.
Yeah, that's what she said.
And I did the 21 gauge for a couple of months. And then I asked for a 25 gauge. And because they were running this through insurance the whole time. So they finally switched to a 25 gauge, which made a world of difference. But in the beginning, when I started off, I really thought it was a placebo. Because I would do my shot on Monday. You know, Monday, Tuesday, I don't feel anything. I mean, it's nothing. By Wednesday, I could feel better. Wednesday night, I could always mark in the calendar, I'm going to sleep great Wednesday night.
Yeah.
And I noticed that right away. And it would ramp up Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I would feel great. Sunday, it would kind of start coming down, you know, hit the peak and start coming down. By Tuesday the next week, I was dragging. And I could not wait to do my shot again the following Monday. So I did that for a couple of months, come back, and he wants to know how things are going. I explain all that. And he says, I even explained I'm worried that this is a placebo. I mean, I'm only, you know, if it's 8 weeks, I'm doing it every other week. It's like what? Handful of shots.
Yeah.
But I'm sleeping great. I slept better in 8 weeks than I did the past 18 years. It was nuts to me. Energy was great. I felt good. I had read about the mental fog thing, and I would have never said that was something I experienced until it was gone.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's what was crazy to me. When it was gone, my gosh, I can think clearly. This is nuts.
That's how I was with the ambition and anxiety. I didn't see it as a TRT benefit until I stopped TRT, and then I thought, oh crap, this was helping me.
Yeah, it was incredible. But that was my concern. You know, is this a placebo? And he said no. You're not going to have a placebo for 2 months. So it has to be working. So he said, I think we have the dosage right. I think the frequency is wrong. Wow. So let's do 200 every week and see what happens. And when they had, for that visit, when they had checked my testosterone, I went from, I think it was 363 down to 323. And this whole time we've been watching the numbers. Yeah. And he made it very, very clear. He shows me on his screen all my numbers. Here now I'm on testosterone. It went down again. He said, I don't care about this anymore. I'm looking at resolving symptoms. And we have that. We have symptom resolution right now. So don't worry about the numbers. The numbers don't mean anything. Just stay on your shots. So I started doing 200 every week, and holy cow, I kind of felt like the Liver King ate Superman. Like it was insane. I mean, I didn't feel the peaks and the valleys. It didn't feel like a roller coaster anymore. It felt insane. It was great. So I do that for maybe 12 weeks. He wants another follow-up. I do blood work again. And usually I would just get an email with my blood work, and I keep waiting for this email and it never pops up. All of a sudden I get a call from the nurse. Kinzie, we've got your labs in. I'm like, okay. What's my number? Your number's 1338. The doctor says you've got to back off. So their scale goes from, I think, 300 to 1100 is the lab I'm using.
Yeah. And
they said 1338 is way out of range. Absolutely not. Mm-hmm. So dial it back to 150 milligrams a week. So, okay, I did it. I dialed it back. And I still don't understand this. I don't know if you have any insight, Brandon. I dialed it back, and within a couple of months, it felt like I was back to not having shots at all. I mean, it felt like nothing.
Yeah. So there's a certain number for every person, right? And it varies, where you're introducing the exogenous testosterone and you're shutting down the endogenous testosterone. And there's a little special little mark where every person will be, where your shutdown is, you're not overproducing exogenously what you're shutting down. And for me, it's around there, 150, 200 even. My dose right now is north of 300 a week. And that's incredibly rare. And that puts my low point at about 650, 700. So it's not like I'm up, 18, 1900. Right. But that would be my insight, is just that there is a special dose that every person takes, and you just don't cross over where you need to be because of what you're losing naturally.
Okay. Well, that's actually how I ended up finding your podcast. Because I listen to podcasts at work all the time. Most of the time, I'm doing something off by myself. So that's how I entertain myself. Put my AirPods in, and just listen to something. And I thought one day, man, just look for testosterone, something on a podcast.
Yeah.
So I had listened, and I think yours is the first time I heard breaking up the dosage.
Yeah.
And I tried that with 150. I would break it up into 3 in a week, and I swear I felt even worse. And I was super frustrated with my wife, it's like I found kryptonite, it's like, it was so frustrating. I felt really, really good. Then all of a sudden they back it down. And I'm like, I feel worse than when I started.
How long did you feel really, really good before they backed it down?
Probably 4 months, but that was still in the beginning.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know, even listening to your interviews with Kenny, he usually says is it 12-month mark or 12-week mark? Yeah. Usually your natural production is shut down at that point.
Yeah, somewhere between like the 8 and 12 week is when, not only that, but when other, estradiol starts creeping up. So a lot of guys feel amazing for 8 to 12 weeks, and then they kind of start to fall off a little bit.
Yeah. So I started in end of November for 2021, and they didn't lower the dose, I think, until March.
Okay. That's a little longer than I would, blame those things.
Yeah, the whole time I've been kind of scratching my head trying to figure out if that was just what what everybody calls the honeymoon period, where
Yeah.
you've got both.
It's also a little strange if 200 is putting you up in the 13s, that just 150, which is not that small of a jump down, would drop you that much. Mine is more like 150 drops me way far down, 300 gets me back up, but 200 still doesn't do anything for me.
Wow. Well, I don't know that I can't say I'm there yet, but my numbers keep dropping.
Well, let me tell you that, or let me ask you this. When you were doing your labs, were you doing them on the same day in your cycle every time?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Because even my doctor was insistent, don't get your labs done until at least 3 days after your last shot.
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 days, he was happy. So I was pretty consistent with that.
Okay.
But anyway, that's how, I found your podcast, heard of Matrix, never heard of it before. And I told my wife last year in July, can I just try this? I know we're leaving insurance, I'm doing telemedicine. I don't know these people, but I think it's going to be different. Can I just try it? I can always go. And I talked to my doctor too. I was open with him about it. And even now when I get labs, I give him my labs all the time so he can still see what's going on.
Yeah.
And he was okay with it. He said, anytime you change your mind, I'll take care of it. And the first appointment I had with Reed with Matrix, told him this whole story, and he's like, you've told me what I needed to hear. 200 is your number. Go back on 200 right now. So I did, and it was like, hey, holy cow, I'm back.
Yeah.
It was crazy. But I just had a follow-up with Sean a couple of weeks ago, and he had added nandrolone to my protocol because with construction, man, these last 20 years,
yeah,
everything hurts. I've got bad knee, bad hip, bad shoulder. So I did the 200 a week with 100 milligrams of nandrolone, and my levels are at like 921, which is kind of wild.
Yeah.
And he even said he expected it to be much higher than that.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. We just raised it to 150. It should raise the testosterone too. So that's new. I'm only in week 2 of that, week 2 or 3.
But
so we'll see what happens.
Feeling good?
Yeah, I'm starting to feel a lot better. It's been night and day though. It's been night and day. I am thrilled with finding Matrix. Sean is fantastic to talk to on the phone.
It sounds like you had a pretty good brick and mortar doctor too. And I feel like that's the piece that most people are missing. I had a decent one. Mikey's seeing the same guy I started with years ago. He's not bad. And your guy wasn't bad, but so many of them are just terrible. Can you imagine what you would have gone through if you would have had a shitty doctor?
Well, even with that, and I agree with you totally. I didn't know what he wasn't checking until listening to your interviews with Matrix. We never checked free testosterone. All of what we did was just total. I don't think he ever checked hemoglobin, hematocrit.
Yeah.
Never checked estradiol. And that's the other thing that I kind of convinced my wife. Hey, he started me on it and it's great, but he's only looking at, a 1/8 of the picture.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing I got to say I really like about Matrix. They have knowledge of all this stuff. We talk about it. It's I think it's a lot better care.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm a fanboy.
How long are your appointments? You've got to be on the phone with them for 45, 60 minutes.
Yeah,
right?
Usually 45 with Sean. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of how I am with Kenny. It's Sean jokes, makes fun of me and says we're talking about personal stuff. We're not. We're going over my labs for an hour, and I've been a patient for a year and a half, so it's not even like it's new, but he's still just thorough.
No, that's awesome.
Yeah. Well, very cool. I'm glad you found us. I'm glad you found Matrix. I'm glad you're feeling good. I hope they dial you in. How long have you been with them? Just a few months or what?
July of last year.
Okay.
Yeah.
No,
it's been good. It's been good. I have no complaints so far.
That's what Mike's going to do too. Yeah. He's going to start with the doctor and he's going to end up at Matrix before he knows it. It's true. And Kevin Epple, the one that you're seeing, he's a great dude. He's a great doctor. He's willing to learn and experiment. He's willing to let you kind of take the reins a little bit, but you just can't beat, like, I feel like Matrix holds our hands, and they're there. Maybe it's because they're in the Facebook group and you can ask questions whenever, but you just don't get that with a guy like Kevin Epple. As great as he is, it still wasn't enough for me. Now, you might be a patient like my buddy Erik. Erik goes to Kevin. He gets 200 milligrams a week. He never looks back. He doesn't have any issues, and he feels amazing for years.
Yeah.
I'm a trouble patient. I need a little bit more care than that. So, it works for some people, but not me.
Yeah. I was saying, this is cool to hear your story, Kinzie. I think it was the last episode that we did. We talked about how I think it was your brother-in-law, how he got on the website and was just saying, I see all these negative things.
Yeah.
And like, this is one of the positive stories like that we don't really get to hear about.
Yep.
But like one of the success stories that,
Yeah, that's why I was so interested in hearing your positive experience, because, my brother-in-law was basically saying in the Facebook group, it's nothing but negative. I'm like, well, yeah, but if you went to a transmission rebuilding group, you'd hear all the problems too. People aren't praising TRT. They're asking for help.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, exactly. No, that's good reasoning.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm happy I found it. It kind of blows me away. And I even told my doctor in the beginning, it blows me away. The thing that helps me sleep gives me energy too. Like, I don't, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Those seem to conflict. And he even said, it's what your body needs as a man. It's going to regulate your system. If you don't have it, it throws everything off.
Mm-hmm.
So I personally, I'm still kind of in the closet with a lot of my friends. I haven't told them yet. My closest friends and family know that I'm doing it. I think even maybe in the construction communities, people would be a little judgmental with something like that, So
Is that why you were nervous to do the show? You don't want everyone in the world.
Yeah, probably.
Nobody listens. They're not going to. If they're listening to this show, they're on TRT or they're considering it anyway. So
this is true.
And before we connected with you tonight, we were just talking about how it took me, I don't even know, 5, 6, 7 years before I put my face with the TRT community. I did it anonymously, started the page, never posted with my own name, became contractually obligated to produce the podcast, still wasn't real comfortable with it, but that's the point where I said, screw it, I got to do it now. So it took a long time.
Yeah.
Mikey says the construction industry is open to it.
Yeah, all the guys talk about it.
Really?
I mean, I'm in elevator construction, and so there's not a lot of guys, but almost every guy that I work with, I was on a job this past weekend, and every single one of the guys, except for one,
was it you? You're the only one.
I guess me and another guy. No, so 2 of us out of 10, they were all on it or had been on it at some point.
Yeah,
and we all talk about it openly.
That's cool. That's good to know.
Have you listened
elevator
to all
guys? Dude, elevator. Because I have a love-hate relationship with the elevator guys. You know how many pallets of tile I got to carry up the stairs because we don't have an elevator yet.
Yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
Have you listened to the old episodes when Ian was on with me?
I'm going through them now. There's a few I haven't, but yeah, because Ian just went cold turkey with the back acne, right?
Oh yeah, he and that Ian has been known to do that with other things too. He'll go cold turkey on a restaurant just because he ordered something stupid. So he's a little neurotic, but he's back on now, and he's actually there. Erik, Kevin, Ian, and Mikey are all going to be on in the near future to kind of celebrate. We just crossed over 100 episodes, so we're going to do a little.
Nice, congrats.
Yeah, but Ian's the first one I told. I don't even know, probably 6, 7 years ago. And I only told him because I saw a lot of my symptoms in him, and I wanted him to know, hey, we were doing some of the same things. This has helped me. Maybe it'll help you.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of the same things with guys I work with, friends that I've had forever. I see a lot of the same symptoms, and I feel like go to the doctor. At least get this checked out. But I mean, these are guys that don't go to the doctor at all, like ever.
Right.
So that's the other hurdle. I got to convince you to go to the doctor, get your labs drawn, and then Now we're going to talk about taking injections for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's
So
a lot of work,
can,
right? Yeah. To broach that subject, first of all, about TRT is one thing, but then to hold their hand, that's kind of like my father-in-law. I've already talked to him about it. And now it's just a matter of like, let me walk you to the doctor and get you checked out. It's
yeah,
difficult.
no, I can see the benefits for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. You start seeing people hearing guys tell stories, their complaints, because all the guys say the same thing. I'm so exhausted after work. I got to go home and sleep on the couch before I do anything.
Yeah.
And we're not 50s and 60-year-old. We're these are guys in their late 30s, early 40s.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I found it. It's something that was never on my radar, but I'm pretty thrilled, to be honest. My wife says even just mentally, she's like, mentally, emotionally, you're fantastic.
Yeah.
Things don't irritate me like they used to. It's just everything's fine. It's cool. Take care of it.
Yeah, that's been a big one for me too. A lot of patience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's incredible.
Well, cool. You're a well-spoken dude. We're gonna have you back on the show sometime.
Whatever, man.
I appreciate it.